All right, here we are at the LED panels project, and in the first video you saw a description on the overall project itself. Now we're going to show you how to install the tie wire on these frames. I'm using a pair of regular pliers and a pair of these, they look like channel locks. What I really like about these channel locks is this little tab here. If you push it, allows this to slide up and down pretty easily. And you'll go from between the closed position to something about an inch, and you'll see in the video it's so that you can claw square onto the frame and crimp the wire at times around it. So I found myself preferring the channel lock pliers in contrast to the regular pliers, but both will work. The reason why for the channel locks, because I could create that crimp effect around the square tube. The final thing you'll need is your tie wire. And so we're going to want to start off, remember we gave ourselves 3 inches per wrap. Now you really need more like 4 inches per wrap on the ends because the middle two don't quite take 3 inches. So we're going to move over here to the first tick mark. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to get about 4 inches, you know, a hand width, and I'm going to start to wrap that around. Now in the beginning it's pretty easy because this wire is malleable, but eventually it starts to really tighten up. And so I did find a little trick on the beginning. The first thing I did was I wrapped it around with my hand, and then I would take my pliers in here and I would kind of crimp it. And I would really get these angles more sharp so that instead of being rounded around the frame, it was kind of squared off, which allowed me to use the tension on these corners and pulling to tighten the wire. The next thing I did is you want to just kind of start your first loop. Now a little tip, I learned this, I only did a couple loops my first one, and there's a reason why, which I'll explain later in the video. Because we're moving horizontal, this wants to slide up and down, and so I really didn't want to focus on getting it tight because it seemed a little cumbersome to do that. So now I'm going to move down to the next joint. And so here we are, and I'm putting some tension on it, and the reason why I'm now eyeballing this wire and I'm trying to by hand take out any large bends. You know, you're not going to get out everything, but it's best at this stage to start getting out anything that you can see is really a bend. Just is going to make it easier. So now using some tension, I started pulling, and I'm really trying to crimp here. So I'm going to hold that, and then I'm going to pull tight again, and I'm going to crimp down on this so that every time I make a bend, I'm really pinching it and making those creases nice and sharp at right angles on this grid. And that's going to help me out. Now you see it starts to coil around the frame, so you do have to pull it through. And so now here's the final crimp, and this is where I go down to the 0 position. So I'm going to put it down at the 0 position, and I'm going to use the head of this channel lock to grab the wire and to kind of rock it on the panel and tighten it. So if you can see this from back here, I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to use the head of this to kind of rock it. And you can kind of hear, and I'm going to tighten that down. And then I'm going to grab it here, and I'm going to tighten it down. Up. Well, that's an example of over tightening. And if you do that, unfortunately, you have to start over. So it's good that we saw this video because you might do this. Could be a little frustrating, but it's part of the deal. So let's do it again.